Kepler Station 7 floated in the darkness between three dying stars. It was a place where species from across the galaxy came to train together under the Coalition military program. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, and they were still considered newcomers. Most aliens thought of them as soft creatures from a dangerous world. Interesting, but nothing special. Cadet Megan Cole walked through the station's main corridor with her usual quiet steps. She was 22 years old, with brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail and eyes that always seemed half asleep. She never raised her voice. She never showed off in training. Her scores were average, her reports were boring, and most instructors forgot her name within a week. But nobody forgot what walked beside her. Brutus moved like a shadow made solid. He was massive, nearly 4 feet tall at the shoulder, with a body that combined the worst features of a wolf and a bear. His scales were black as deep space, and they shifted like liquid metal when he breathed. 6 eyes glowed faintly red in the dim corridor light. His claws clicked against the metal floor with each step, and the sound made every alien in the hallway press themselves against the walls. Megan didn't notice. Or if she did, she didn't care. "Cole," a clicking voice called out. "Wait." She stopped and turned. Crickstill hurried toward her on 4 insectoid legs, his mandibles twitching nervously as he glanced at Brutus. The war beast didn't react. He simply sat down beside Megan and watched the alien approach with all 6 eyes. "You heard about the assignment?" Crickstill asked. "Survey mission on Dravos 4, Megan said. "Standard training exercise." "I leave tomorrow? Alone?" "Brutus counts as company." Crickstill made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been fear. With his species, it was hard to tell. "That is not what concerns me. There are rumors. Vectory hunters have been seen in this sector." Megan tilted her head slightly. "Vectory? You do not know them?" "They are collectors. They hunt rare species across the galaxy. For sport. For profit." Crickstill's antennae flattened against his head. "They would find a human very interesting, especially one with a bonded beast." Megan scratched behind Brutus's ear. The massive creature rumbled softly, a sound like distant thunder. "Thanks for the warning. You should request a different assignment. Or at least take backup. I'll be fine." She started walking again. "See you when I get back." Crickstill watched her go, his compound eyes reflecting her retreating form. He had known Megan for 3 months now. She was strange even by human standards. Nothing seemed to worry her. Nothing seemed to excite her either. She moved through life like someone who had already seen everything and decided most of it wasn't worth the effort. He didn't understand her at all. But he had learned one thing in their brief friendship. When Megan said she would be fine, she meant it. The next morning, Megan packed her survey equipment into a small shuttle. She brought the standard gear: scanners, communication devices, emergency supplies. She also brought 3 bags of coffee beans and a portable brewing kit. Lieutenant Yora Voss watched her load the shuttle with raised eyebrows. "That's a lot of coffee for a 3-day mission." Voss said, "I drink a lot of coffee." Megan sealed the cargo bay and turned to face her instructor. "Any special orders?" Voss was a tall woman with gray streaks in her dark hair and scars on her hands that spoke of years in combat. She had been one of the first humans to serve in the Coalition military. She had seen things that would break most soldiers. But even she felt uncomfortable when Brutus looked at her. "Just the standard protocol. Survey the mining facility. Report anything unusual. Come back in one piece." Voss paused. "There are rumors about Vectory activity in the area." Crickstill mentioned that. And I'll keep my eyes open." Megan whistled softly. Brutus rose from where he had been resting and padded into the shuttle. "Anything else?" Voss studied her for a long moment. She had read Megan's file. The girl had grown up on a frontier colony that had been attacked by raiders when she was 12. Her entire family had died. The rescue team had found her 3 weeks later, sitting in the ruins of her home with a war beast curled around her. The beast had killed 47 raiders. Megan had been drinking water from a canteen and reading a book. "No," Voss said finally. "Nothing else. Good luck out there." The shuttle launched without incident. Megan set the autopilot and settled into her seat with a cup of coffee. Brutus lay on the floor beside her, his massive head resting on his paws. Through their neural bond, she could feel his contentment. He liked the quiet of space. He liked being alone with her dog. She liked it too. Humans had discovered the potential for beast bonding 60 years ago, during the early days of space colonization. Certain creatures, genetically engineered from Earth's most dangerous predators, could form neural links with compatible humans. The bond went deeper than training or loyalty. It was a merging of minds. The beast gained access to human intelligence, human planning, human tactical thinking. The human gained access to the beast's senses, its instincts, its raw physical power. Most species in the galaxy considered it primitive. They had advanced weapons, energy shields, artificial intelligence. Why would anyone rely on animals? They didn't understand. A bonded war beast wasn't an animal anymore. It wasn't a weapon either. It was something else entirely. Something that no scanner could measure and no scientist could explain. Megan finished her coffee and closed her eyes. Through the bond, she saw what Brutus saw. The stars streaming past the window, the steady pulse of the ship's engines, the smell of recycled air. She felt what he felt. Calm, patient, ready. Always ready. Dar AVOS-4 appeared on the view screen 3 hours later. It was a gray moon orbiting a gas giant, with thin atmosphere and abandoned mining facilities scattered across its surface. Megan landed the shuttle near the largest facility and began her survey work while Brutus prowled the perimeter. She didn't know that 5 ships had just entered the system behind her. She didn't know that she had been tracked for 3 weeks. She didn't know that the Vecthory considered her the most valuable prey they had hunted in years. But deep in her mind, through the bond, she felt Brutus's ears twitch. Something was coming. Megan poured herself another cup of coffee and waited. The Vecthory were patient hunters. They had tracked their prey across 17 star systems, studied her habits, learned her patterns. They knew when she slept. They knew what she ate. They knew that she never went anywhere without her beast. Zethkar stood on the bridge of his hunting vessel and watched the human shuttle on his display screen. He was tall for his species, nearly 7 feet of scaled muscle and cold intelligence. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, and his teeth were designed for tearing flesh. He had hunted sentient beings for 40 years. He had never lost a target. She landed near the primary facility. One of his hunters reported. "Alone except for the beast. Communications jammed. She cannot call for help." Zethkar allowed himself a thin smile. Perfect. His hunting party consisted of 5 elite warriors. Each one had killed dozens of prey across the galaxy. They were armed with plasma rifles, energy blades, and neural disruptors. They wore armor that could stop most projectile weapons. They were, by any reasonable measure, among the most dangerous predators in known space. But Zethkar was not foolish enough to underestimate any target. "Tell me about Terran war beasts," he said. One of his hunters pulled up a data file. Genetically engineered creatures. Combination of several Earth predator species. Strong, fast, dangerous in close combat, but limited intelligence. They operate on instinct, guided by simple commands from their bonded human. Weaknesses? Standard biological vulnerabilities. They can be killed by concentrated plasma fire. Their neural bond makes them protective of their human, which can be exploited. If the human dies, the beast becomes unstable and easy to eliminate. ZFCar nodded slowly. His buyers had offered a tremendous sum for this particular target. Humans were rare in the underground fighting rings, and bonded humans were rarer still. The beast would be sold to collectors who wanted exotic trophies. The human herself. Well, there were many buyers interested in studying the bonding process. Neither would survive long after the sale. But that wasn't his concern. "We move in 1 hour," he announced. "Standard capture protocol. Surround the facility, neutralize escape routes, force her into the open. Kill the beast quickly. I want no unnecessary damage to the human." His hunters acknowledged the order and began their preparations. 1 hour later, 5 Vectory warriors descended on DRAVOS-4. Megan was inside the mining facility when her communication device went dead. She looked at it for a moment, then looked at the small display screen on her scanner. The jamming signal was strong and professional. Someone had spent a lot of money on that equipment. She sighed and put the scanner away. Brutus. The war beast appeared from the shadows of the facility. His 6 eyes glowed brighter now, and his scales had shifted to a darker shade. Through their bond, Megan felt his alertness. He had sensed the intruders before the jamming signal even started. How many? She asked. Brutus sent her an impression through the bond. 5 distinct scents, reptilian, armed, approaching from multiple directions. "Hunters," Megan said. She wasn't surprised. Cricksdale's warning had been accurate after all. "Guess the survey will have to wait." She walked to her equipment bag and pulled out her coffee thermos. It was still warm. She poured herself a cup and looked around the facility. It was a large space, full of abandoned mining equipment and old cargo crates. Multiple entry points. Poor lighting. Lots of places to hide. A perfect hunting ground. Just not for the VEKTHAR. Megan found a sturdy crate near the center of the room and sat down. She took a long sip of her coffee and closed her eyes. Through the bond, she expanded her awareness into Brutus's senses. She smelled the dust and rust of the facility. She heard the distant footsteps of the hunters outside. She felt the cold air moving through broken ventilation shafts. Brutus settled beside her, perfectly still. To an observer, he might have looked relaxed, almost lazy. But Megan knew better. She felt the coiled tension in his muscles. She felt the predator instinct burning in his mind, held in check only by her calm presence. She took another sip of coffee. "We have guests," she said quietly. "Let's be polite." A voice crackled from a speaker outside the facility. ZFCar had found her shuttle's communication system and hijacked it. "Human," the voice said. "I am ZFCar of the Vectory Hunting Guild. You are surrounded. Your communications are blocked. There is no escape." Megan raised an eyebrow but didn't respond. "Surrender now, and I promise your death will be quick. Resist, and I will make you watch while we skin your beast alive. The choice is yours." Megan looked at Brutus. The war beast's eyes had narrowed to slits. "Rude," she said. She finished her coffee and poured another cup. Then she leaned back against the crate and waited. Minutes passed. Through Brutus's ears, she heard the hunters growing impatient. They had expected fear. They had expected screaming, begging, desperate escape attempts. The silence confused them. Finally, ZFCar gave the order. Megan heard it through the thin walls of the facility. "Breach now. All points." The doors exploded inward. 3 entry points, just as Brutus had sensed. The hunters moved with professional precision, their weapons sweeping the dark space. They found Megan immediately. She wasn't hiding. She was sitting on a crate, drinking coffee with a massive war beast lying at her feet. Neither of them moved. The hunters paused. This wasn't right. Prey was supposed to run. Prey was supposed to fight. Prey was not supposed to sit calmly in the middle of a room and look mildly annoyed at the interruption. HFY entered through the main door. His yellow eyes swept the scene, searching for the trap he was certain existed. But there was nothing, just a young human woman and her beast. "Interesting," he said. "You do not seem afraid." Megan looked at him over the rim of her cup. "Should I be?" "Yes." HFY gestured to his hunters. "You should be." "Huh." Megan took another sip. "Okay." She didn't move. Brutus didn't move. The silence stretched on. HFY felt something cold crawl up his spine. He had hunted thousands of prey across dozens of worlds. He knew fear when he saw it. He knew courage, too, and desperation, and false bravado. This was none of those things. This was something else entirely. "Kill the beast," he ordered. "Take the human alive." One of his hunters lunged forward, energy blade humming to life. He never saw what hit him. Kepler Station 7 had never seen anything like it. Megan's shuttle docked at the military bay exactly on schedule. She had transmitted her report during the journey brief, factual, almost boring. Encountered hostile elements. Neutralized threats. Returning with prisoner for trial. The station commander had read the report 3 times. Before believing it, Lieutenant Vos was waiting when the shuttle bay doors opened. She had brought a security team with her, 12 armed soldiers in full combat gear. They formed a perimeter around the landing pad, weapons ready. Majamp first. She looked the same as always. Calm, quiet, slightly sleepy. Her uniform was clean. Her hair was still in its simple ponytail. She carried her coffee, thermos in one hand and her equipment bag in the other. Brutus followed behind her. His scales had been cleaned during the journey, but nothing could hide what he was. He moved with the easy grace of a predator who knew there was nothing in the universe that could challenge him. The security team shifted nervously. And then came HFY. The Vectory hunter stumbled down the ramp with his hands bound in front of him. He was a broken creature now, nothing like the confident predator who had descended on Dralos 4 just hours ago. His yellow eyes were haunted. His scales were dull. He flinched every time Brutus looked at him. Vos stepped forward. Her face was carefully neutral, but Megan could see the questions burning behind her eyes. "Cadet Cole, report. Vectory hunting party attacked during my survey mission," Megan said. 5 hunters plus their leader. I neutralized the threat and captured the leader for trial. The bodies are still at the facility. I marked the location for retrieval. Vos looked at HFY, then at Brutus, then back at Megan. 5 elite Vectory hunters, she said slowly. "And you neutralized them, alone." Megan shrugged. "Brutus did most of the work. I just drank coffee." Despite herself, Vos felt the corner of her mouth twitch. She had suspected for a long time that Cadet Megan Cole was more than she appeared. But even she hadn't imagined this. "Take the prisoner to detention," she ordered her team. "Full security protocols. I want him isolated until the trial." The soldiers moved forward cautiously, keeping a safe distance from Brutus. HFY went with them without resistance. As he passed Megan, he stopped for just a moment. "They won't believe me," he said. "When I tell them what I saw, they won't believe me." Megan looked at him with something that might have been sympathy. "Then show them. Your suit's recorder was active the whole time. The footage will speak for itself." HFY's eyes widened. He had forgotten about the recorder. Every Vectory hunter wore one. It was standard protocol for documenting hunts. His suit had captured everything, every death, every impossible movement, every moment of his humiliation. "You knew," he whispered. "I knew." The soldiers led him away. Megan watched him go, then turned to Vos. "Permission to return to my quarters, Lieutenant?" I need to restock my coffee supplies. Voss stared at her for a long moment. Granted. But Cole, this is the third hunting party you've eliminated. Megan blinked. Is it? Don't play games with me. Voss's voice was low, too quiet for anyone else to hear. I've read your file, all of it. The classified sections, too. I know about the raiders on your colony. I know about the rescue team. I know about the military's concerns regarding your bond. Then you know I'm not a threat. I know you're a soldier who takes out hunting parties alone and doesn't even bother to mention it in her reports. Voss shook her head. Why do you hide what you are? Megan considered the question. Through the bond, she felt Brutus's curiosity. He wanted to know her answer, too. Because I don't want attention, she finally said. I just want to be left alone. To serve my time, complete my training, and live quietly somewhere. She scratched behind Brutus's ear. Attention means people asking questions. People studying us. People trying to understand what we are and how we work. She looked at Voss with ancient eyes. The last time people studied us, they tried to separate us. I'd rather die than go through that again. Voss was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Go get your coffee, Cole, but be ready for the trial. They're going to want your testimony. Megan smiled. It was a small, tired smile. I know. I'll be there. She walked away with Brutus at her side. The station's corridors had never seemed so empty. News of her arrival had spread, and everyone was keeping their distance. Even the alien cadets who usually ignored her were pressing themselves against walls to let her pass. Only one person approached her. Kriegstall stood in the middle of the corridor, his compound eyes fixed on her face. His mandibles were trembling slightly, but he didn't move away. The rumors are spreading, he said. Everyone is talking about what happened. About what you did. I figured they would. They say you killed 5 Vectory hunters without moving from your seat. That's mostly accurate. Kriegstall made that sound again, the one that might have been laughter or fear. Mostly? I moved when my coffee got cold. Had to brew a fresh cup? This time, it was definitely laughter. The insectoid alien's body shook with the unfamiliar motion. You are the strangest human I have ever met, Megan Cole. Probably. They walked together to the station cafeteria. It was late, and most of the tables were empty. Megan ordered coffee and a sandwich. Kriegstall ordered something that looked like purple soup. They sat at a table in the corner, with Brutus lying on the floor beside them. Are you afraid of me now? Megan asked. Kriegstall considered the question carefully. Yes, he admitted, but I was afraid of you before. Now I am simply more informed about why. Fair enough. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Kriegstall glanced at Brutus. Would he ever hurt a friend? Megan reached down and scratched behind the war beast's ears. Brutus rumbled contentedly, his 6 eyes half closed with pleasure. He only hurts people who hurt me, she said. And you brought me coffee once when I forgot to get some. As far as Brutus is concerned, that makes you family. Kriegstall blinked. Really? Really? Megan smiled. You're safe, Krix. You always were. The trial happened 3 days later. It was broadcast across Coalition space, partly for legal reasons, partly because everyone wanted to see the famous Vectory hunter who had been captured by a human cadet. Zethkar testified for hours. He described the attack, the slaughter, his humiliation. He showed the footage from his suit's recorder. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as 5 elite hunters were dismantled by a single war beast, while a young human woman sat drinking coffee. By the time the trial ended, the footage had been viewed over 1 billion times. Coalition Command issued a new advisory the next day. Human-bonded units are to be considered apex predators. Do not engage without overwhelming force. Do not threaten bonded humans under any circumstances. All previous threat assessments regarding Terran war beasts are hereby classified as obsolete. Megan heard about the advisory while eating breakfast. She shrugged and poured herself more coffee. The syndicate canceled all outstanding contracts on bonded humans within a week. The underground fighting rings removed humans from their target lists. Across the galaxy, hunters and criminals and slavers who had once considered humans easy prey began to reconsider their positions. And in a quiet corner of Kepler Station 7, Cadet Megan Cole continued her training. She attended classes. She completed assignments. She scored average marks on her examinations. She drew no attention to herself. Nobody bothered her anymore. Brutus liked that, so did she. On the last day of the month, a new alien cadet arrived at the station. He was young and nervous and had clearly heard the stories. When he saw Megan in the cafeteria, he froze. She noticed his terror and sighed. This happens sometimes. Want some coffee? She asked. The cadet stared at her, then at Brutus, then back at her. Yes. Megan poured him a cup and slid it across the table. Welcome to Kepler Station 7. I'm Megan. That's Brutus. He doesn't bite unless I tell him to. And I only tell him to bite people who deserve it. The cadet took the cup with trembling hands. How do I not deserve it? Megan smiled. For the first time in a long time, it was a warm smile, a genuine smile. Just be kind, she said. That's all it takes. Brutus rumbled in agreement. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans were not prey. And bonded humans? They were something far more dangerous. They were protected. Brutus moved like darkness given form. One moment he was lying at Megan's feet, still as stone. The next moment he was simply somewhere else, and the Vectory hunter who had lunged at him was falling to the ground in pieces. The other hunters opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts lit up the dim facility in flashes of blue and white. The shots should have hit. They were aimed perfectly. The hunters were professionals who had killed hundreds of targets. But Brutus wasn't there anymore. He moved through the gunfire like smoke through fingers. The plasma bolts hit empty air, old equipment, the walls behind where he had been a fraction of a second earlier. He didn't dodge. Dodging implied reaction, response, defense. This was something else. He flowed around the attacks as if he knew where they would be before they happened, because he did. Megan sat on her crate and watched through half-closed eyes. To anyone observing, she looked almost bored. But inside her mind, she was everywhere at once. Through the bond, she saw what Brutus saw. She processed the tactical data with human intelligence, the positions of each hunter, their firing patterns, their blind spots. She calculated trajectories and identified weaknesses with the cold precision of a military computer. And Brutus executed her strategies in real time. The second hunter died before he could fire a third shot. Brutus came at him from below, claws tearing through armored legs like paper. The hunter screamed and fell. He stopped screaming very quickly. What is this? One of the remaining hunters shouted. It's too fast. Nothing moves that fast. Megan took a sip of coffee. The third hunter tried to run. It was the smart move. He made it exactly 4 steps before Brutus intercepted him. The war beast didn't just kill him, he dismantled him. Methodically, efficiently. No wasted movement. No unnecessary violence. Just clean, surgical elimination. 2 hunters left. Plus a Zeth car. The surviving hunters pressed their backs against the wall, weapons raised, eyes wild with terror. They had stopped shooting. There was no point. They couldn't hit something that moved like that. They couldn't even see it properly. Zeth car stood frozen near the entrance. His mind struggled to process what he was witnessing. He had studied Terran war beasts. He had read the research. He had watched footage of captured beasts in containment facilities. Those creatures had been dangerous, yes. strong and fast. But they had been animals. They had attacked in predictable patterns. They had been killed by concentrated fire. This was not that. This was something else entirely. What are you? He whispered. Megan finally stood up. She stretched slowly, still holding her coffee cup, and looked at him with mild curiosity. I'm Cadet Megan Cole, she said. Coalition military. You're interrupting my survey mission. Your beast, how is it doing that? How is it moving like that? Megan glanced at Brutus. The war beast had positioned himself between her and the remaining hunters. His scales were wet with blood, but his eyes were calm, patient, waiting for her next instruction. You studied war beasts, Megan said. I know you did. Everyone does before they try something like this. But you studied them in captivity, didn't you? Broken beasts, alone, separated from their bonded humans. Zethkar said nothing. An unbonded war beast is just an animal, Megan continued. Dangerous, yes, but predictable, limited. They operate on instinct because they have nothing else. She scratched behind Brutus's ear, and the massive creature rumbled softly. But a bonded beast? That's different. A bonded beast has access to something more. What? Zethkar demanded. What does it have access to? Megan smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. Me. She tapped the side of her head. Neural bond. Full integration. Brutus doesn't just follow my commands. He shares my mind. He thinks with my thoughts. He plans with my strategies. He sees what I see and knows what I know. She gestured at the bodies scattered across the facility floor. You weren't fighting an animal. You were fighting a human tactical intelligence operating through a perfect killing machine. Zethkar's yellow eyes widened. Every move he made was calculated, Megan said. Every attack was planned before it happened. I analyzed your positions, identified your firing patterns, predicted your reactions. Brutus just executed. She shrugged. We've had 10 years of practice. We're very good at it. The two surviving hunters broke and ran. They threw away their weapons and sprinted for the exit, all thoughts of the mission abandoned. Raw survival instinct had taken over. Brutus looked at Megan. Through the bond, she felt his question. Let them reach the door, she said quietly. Then stop them. But don't kill them yet. The war beast moved. The hunters made it to the exit. They were fast, powered by terror and desperation. For one brief moment, they thought they might escape. They thought they might survive to warn others about what they had seen. Then Brutus was in front of them. He had circled around the entire facility in the time it took them to run 30 feet. He stood in the doorway now, blocking their path, his 6 eyes glowing like dying stars. Blood dripped from his claws. The hunters stopped. They looked back at the room full of their dead companions. They looked at the human woman still casually drinking her coffee. They looked at the monster standing before them. One of them fell to his knees. Please, he begged. Please, we were just following orders. We didn't know. We didn't understand. Megan walked toward them slowly. Brutus moved aside to let her pass, then fell into step beside her. She stopped a few feet from the kneeling hunter and looked down at him. Where's your ship? She asked. In orbit. The main vessel. Zethkar can give you the codes. Megan nodded. She turned to face the Vectory leader. Zethkar hadn't moved from his position. His weapon hung forgotten at his side. His eyes were fixed on Brutus. You hunted a human, Megan said. That was your first mistake. She took a final sip of her coffee. You threatened her beast. That was your last. Brutus moved again. The 2 hunters died quickly. Megan didn't enjoy killing, and neither did Brutus. There was no cruelty in it, just efficiency. They were threats, and threats needed to be eliminated. That was all. Zethkar was different. Brutus drove the Vectory leader to the ground with one massive paw on his chest. The war beast's claws pressed against the scales just hard enough to draw blood. Not enough to kill. Not yet. Through the bond, Megan felt Brutus's restraint. He wanted to finish it. Every instinct in his engineered body screamed at him to end the threat. But she held him back. She needed information first. Megan knelt beside the pinned Vectory. Up close, she could see the terror in his yellow eyes. He was shaking. The great hunter, the feared predator who had killed hundreds of prey across the galaxy, was trembling like a child. "How many ships?" she asked. Zethkar swallowed hard. "One. Just one. The crew of 3 stayed in orbit. They have no weapons. They're just pilots. And who hired you?" "I don't. We work through intermediaries. I never meet the buyers directly. But this contract came from the Syndicate. They wanted a bonded human for study. They wanted to understand how the neural link works." Megan nodded slowly. The Syndicate was a criminal organization that operated across multiple sectors. They dealt in everything from illegal weapons to sentient trafficking. She had heard of them during her training. "How did you find me?" she asked. "We tracked your shuttle's registration. Coalition military cadets often travel alone for training exercises. You were—" He paused, shame flickering across his face. "You were supposed to be easy prey. Because I'm young? Because you're human?" Zefka's voice cracked. "Humans are soft, weak. Your species has only been in space for a few generations. You don't have claws or scales or natural armor. Your war beasts are your only advantage, and we thought we understood them. We thought they were just animals. You were wrong. Yes." He closed his eyes. "We were very wrong." Megan stood up and walked a few steps away. She needed to think. The Syndicate would send more hunters when this party didn't return. They would come better prepared next time. They might even target other bonded humans. She couldn't let that happen. "Brutus," she said quietly. "Let him up." The war beast removed his paw but didn't move away. He stayed close enough to strike if needed. Zefkar slowly sat up, clutching his bleeding chest. "What are you going to do with me?" he asked. "That depends." Megan turned to face him. "How much do you want to live?" What? It's a simple question. How much do you want to live? Because right now, you have 2 options. Brutus can kill you here, and your body will be left in this facility for the next survey team to find. Or you can come with me back to Kepler Station 7 and stand trial for hunting sentient beings. Zefkar stared at her. "You would let me live? I would let you face justice." Megan shrugged. "You'll probably spend the rest of your life in a coalition prison, but you'll be alive. And more importantly, you'll be able to tell others what happened here, what you saw, what you learned about bonded humans and their beasts." The Vectory considered this for a long moment. Through the bond, Megan felt Brutus's disapproval. He wanted to kill the hunter. Every cell in his body demanded it. But he trusted her judgment. He always had. "Why?" Zefkar finally asked. "Why let me live to spread this story?" Megan smiled. It was a cold smile, empty of warmth or mercy. "Because I want the galaxy to know." She walked over to her equipment bag and began packing her supplies. Her survey mission was over, but she needed her coffee kit for the trip back. It was a long journey to Kepler Station 7. I want every hunter, every slaver, every criminal who thinks humans are easy targets to hear about this day, she said as she worked. I want them to know that we are not prey. I want them to understand that our beasts are not animals. I want them to learn that when you come for a bonded human, you are not facing one threat. You are facing 2 minds working as one. She sealed her bag and turned back to Zethkar. "So you're going to live. And you're going to talk. And every word you say will spread across the galaxy like a warning." HFY slowly rose to his feet. His legs were unsteady, and he had to lean against the wall for support. "You're using me as a message." "Yes, that's cruel." Megan laughed. It was a genuine laugh, the first real emotion she had shown since the hunters arrived. "Cruel? I'm giving you your life." Most hunters wouldn't extend the same courtesy to their prey. She picked up her bag and whistled softly. Brutus padded to her side. "Now let's go. Your ship is in orbit, and I want to be back at the station before dinner." They walked out of the mining facility together. The bodies of the other hunters lay where they had fallen. Megan didn't look at them. Neither did Brutus. HFY followed in silence. His mind was still struggling to process everything that had happened. An hour ago, he had been the predator. He had been confident, certain of victory, ready to claim his prize. Now he was the prey. Now he was the trophy. And the young woman walking ahead of him, sipping coffee from a travel cup, had not even broken a sweat. "How long?" he asked suddenly. "How long have you been bonded with that beast?" Megan didn't turn around. 10 years. Since you were a child?" "Since I was 12. Her voice was casual, but HFY heard something underneath it. "Pain, maybe. Or loss. There was an attack on my colony. Raiders. They killed everyone." "Everyone?" "Almost everyone." Megan reached down and ran her fingers through Brutus's scales. "I survived because a war beast had escaped from a military transport during the attack. He found me hiding in the wreckage of my home. He chose me." HFY blinked. "Chose you?" "War beasts don't choose their partners. They're assigned through military protocols. Usually." Megan shrugged. "But Brutus was different. He walked into that wreckage, looked at me with all 6 eyes, and decided I was worth protecting. The rescue team found us 3 weeks later. He had killed every raider on the colony. I had found some food and water and a book to read. They reached the shuttle. Megan opened the cargo bay and gestured for HFY to get inside. He obeyed without protest. "The military wanted to separate us," she continued. "They said the bond was unstable. Too deep, too strong. They worried about what we might become." She smiled, and for just a moment, her eyes looked exactly like Brutus's, cold, patient, dangerous. They were right to worry. The cargo bay door closed, and Megan walked to the cockpit. She began the launch sequence while Brutus settled in his usual spot on the floor dot in the darkness of the cargo bay. HFY sat alone with his thoughts. He had spent 40 years hunting the galaxy's most dangerous prey. He had faced creatures that could tear through starship hulls. He had killed warriors from species that had been fighting wars. Before humans existed, none of them had scared him like this. The shuttle lifted off, carrying its unusual cargo toward Justice. And in orbit. The Vectory ship's crew watched in confusion as their leader's shuttle departed without the expected cargo. They tried to contact him. There was no response. They never saw the war beast's eyes glowing in the cockpit window.